Hi, and welcome to the Tuesday session of Bitrix24 Live. My name's Andy Naylor, and I am the support manager here at Bitrix24 Partners Interface. We're gold partners of Bitrix24. And today's session is going to cover document management. So this is the fourth part of our remote working series, and it's solely going to focus on how document management works inside Bitrix. So just a little bit about us first. As I mentioned, we're Bitrix24 Gold Partners. We have an office in the US, in the UK, and also in Dubai. We offer a whole range of different services from pre-sale support. So if you're interested in purchasing Bitrix, then we can answer any questions and also set up and show you live on screen any answers to those questions in a remote session. We also offer the license purchases, implementation and installation services. So if you're wanting to implement Bitrix into your business, we offer a whole range of different services for those implementations. And we also offer an installation services for Bitrix24 on-premise. So if you want to install it on your own server in-house or on a cloud server such as AWS or Google Compute, then we can install it on that. And then finally, we offer premium support. So we offer telephone and ticketing support as well. So please do get in touch if you do have any questions with regards to implementing Bitrix, installing it, or if you're interested in taking out support with ourselves. So this Tuesday session, as I mentioned, is just going to focus on document management. We're going to have a look at why Bitrix is a perfect repository for all your documents and how you can access those documents in the cloud, how you work on those documents either using a local tool such as Microsoft Word, or you can also edit documents using cloud services such as Office 365 or Google Docs. So it might be useful for you. And obviously with documents, permissions are quite an essential area to cover. So it might be that you store documents on Bitrix that you don't want anybody in the organization to see. We can easily set up those permissions. So if we go into our Bitrix instance, and I'm on a cloud version at the moment, but if we go into Bitrix24 drives, let's have a look at the different areas in where you can store documents. So once we click into the Bitrix24 drive, we initially land at the My Drive section. So you can see in the top menu we have My Drive. And from this, we essentially have access to any document that has been shared with ourselves. My user who I'm logged in as, I can see any document that's been shared. And I can also see any work group or project drive that has been connected up into my drive. So let's just have a look at that. So if you're working in projects inside Bitrix, then it's really handy and useful to connect those drives to your My Drive location. So if I was to go into the work group section here, we click into our marketing work group and then click into the drive at the top here. We can click on the option to connect to drive here. So once we click on connected to drive, you can see that it's successfully been connected. Once we go back into the Bitrix24 drive here, then you can now see the workgroup drive folder that's been connected and it's marketing. And you can tell that it's been shared because it has the two profile images on there to say that it's been shared with yourself. And when I click in here, I can then access the project document drive straight from my drive location. So it is a really useful tool. You will only ever see the documents, like I say, that have been shared with you in here or that you've connected up yourself. So it's a good personal space where you can have access to all the documents that you would like to within Bitrix. Now, whilst we're in here, what Bitrix also offers is a desktop application. And what the desktop application can allow you to do, it can allow you to sync your My Drive, so this location here with the marketing uploaded files and the template quote document. You can sync this My Drive to your local machine. So if I was to click on our desktop application here and click into here, so you can see this is the desktop application. Now if I click into the drive icon in the left hand menu, then you can see here, I'm on a Mac at the moment, and you can see here from the drive icon in the top that the latest two files to sync to my local machine is the marketing folder, which I've just connected to my Drive, and also the template quote. And we can also click on here to open the Bitrix24 drive folder on your local machine. So I'll bring up the Mac Finder window here, and you can see the marketing folder that I've just connected is now accessible on my local machine, rather than me having to go into Bitrix itself and access the documents. So what we can also do here is if I just bring another Finder window and I wanted to bring in maybe the general form, let's drag that, add it into our drive folder on the desktop application, and then what we can do is if I just jump back into Bitrix and just give it a refresh, we can now see that the general form document that I've added into my local drive that I connected up, you can see that this is being added here. If I switch to the list view, you can actually see that it was added, the general form last time it was edited, it was the 12th of February. But you can see how quickly and how easily it is to then mass upload. So if I wanted to maybe drag this into the marketing folder, then again, that's now going to reflect inside Bitrix itself. So it's going to, you can organize your own file and folder structure locally. And this is a fantastic tool to be using. If you don't have the Bitrix desktop application, simply go to the Bitrix24 website. If you click on the apps location at the top, then you'll be able to scroll down and find the download area for the desktop application. That includes, you can have the desktop application for a Mac, for a Windows machine, and it also provides you with a .msi file as well. One other handy tool that Bitrix offers is the ability to have an elastic drive. Now, what an elastic drive is, it essentially means that it doesn't download the full documents to your local machine. So let's just say, for example, you had 100 megabytes of documents in your My Drive and you wanted to connect it to the desktop application and therefore sync it to your local machine. What the elastic drive does is it doesn't actually download a physical copy to your local machine. Instead, it will just be essentially a hot link to that document, and only when you click on that document to edit it, only then will it download. It's quite useful because you're obviously not going to download 100 meg. I mean, 100 meg's quite low, but if you don't have to store that 100 megabytes worth of documents on your local machine. If you enable the elastic drive option, it will essentially download 0 megabytes, and only when I was to click on template doc would it physically download that document to your machine. So that's a very good option to choose there if you wanted to. So let's jump back into the My Drive area, and whilst we're talking about the desktop application, one of the other things that it does offer you is the ability to edit the documents locally. So what I mean by locally is that if I was to click on the general form docx file, instead of downloading it to my local machine, it will actually open up Word doc. So if I click into the gear icon here and clicking settings for workings with documents, instead of having it in the cloud, click on locally, and as long as you've got the desktop open, if I was to double click this and then click on edit, it will ask me if I want to open up the Bitrix24 application. And then what it will do is, you can see here, if I now jump to, I think if I open up our Word, might take some time, but here you go. So you can see it's opened up the Word document on my local machine. I can make a change to this. So if I said Andy Naylor, and then if I save that particular file, you can see here it's saving, and you can see in the top right hand corner it's actually resyncing it back up into Bitrix via the desktop application. So if I come out of here now and give this drive a refresh, then you can see, in fact I moved it, didn't I, into the marketing. You can see in here now, if I was to open this up, it should give you the Andy Naylor. I think I might need to save it back into the local machine. But you can see we've been having a couple of issues with Word. But essentially it syncs it back up via the desktop application into the Bitrix24 drive. And that's a really useful tool to be editing it locally, saving it and going back. One of the restrictions is the fact that you can't collaborate on this document together inside your local machine. So you would have to lock the document inside Bitrix to be able to stop other users from editing this document. So that is just one slight restriction in using the Bitrix desktop application. So hopefully you can see the benefits of definitely downloading it. The Bitrix desktop application also, not only does it give you the drive sync for documents and areas like that, it gives you access to the instant messenger. You can video and voice call on the desktop application. You don't have to have it open. You don't have to have Bitrix24 open in the web browser all the time. You can answer live chats and Facebook messages that if you've got Facebook connected up into Bitrix. You can use a telephony, and you also get notifications. So in here I would receive a list of all my notifications in here. I've got a question about permissions. I'm going to show you that in a moment and how we can set up folder and drive permissions. I'll show you that in the company drive folder. But yeah, hi Kenny, hi Christian. So we go back into My Drive. So if we go into My Drive, hopefully that explains what My Drive is in Bitrix. It's essentially, if you missed it at the beginning, it's essentially the place where you access your shared documents and connected project and workgroup folders. Now if we go into the company drive folder, so the company drive folder is a place where you should have it as your central repository for documents. So think of it as your company drive location. If you're not storing your documents anywhere else, whether it be on Google Drive or a local repository, a lot of people of our clients have local document servers. If you're not having it anywhere else, then, or you're planning on moving it into Bitrix, then it is quite powerful, the fact that you can create your folder and file structure inside Bitrix very easily. And if we click onto add and click on folder here, and let's just call it HR documents. Click into HR documents. There you can see we have a folder. Let's just go back into the list view in here as well. So we have a folder, HR documents. Now the question a minute ago was with regards to permissions. So we can set permissions on the whole drive as a default permission structure. So to do that, I'm an administrator on here, so I can click into the gear icon and click into assign permissions. So you can see here at the moment we have all departments and sub-departments have the ability to edit. So if I click on here and click on here, so maybe we don't have too many users on here. So if you can see all departments and sub-departments. So what we can do is if you have many departments in your organization, then you can assign permissions on a departmental basis. You can assign permissions on a user-by-user basis. So you should set those up for the drive as a whole, and we have the ability to read, we have the ability to add, so we can create folders and add new files, the ability to edit anything in here, the ability to share to other users, or we have full access. So let's just give everybody full access for the moment. And now what you can do is, first of all, if I was to click on here for the first time, then you cannot see access permissions on here, okay? What you would need to do is go back up to the gear icon at the top, click on assign permissions, and then click on enable extended permission control for individual files and folders. What that therefore allows you to do is you can click on here and then you now have access permissions. So you can start to set permissions on a folder and file basis. So maybe the HR in here, if I click on, so instead of having everybody access this, what I might want to do is only have the user Andy to be able to access this. Now, because there isn't an access denied option, if you're not in this permission list that you see here, you will essentially not have access to this particular document folder. So you can see in here we have the HR documents. This is now only accessible to the user Andy Naylor. So that is quite important if you are wanting to restrict your access to those particular documents. And HR is obviously quite a private and secure area that you might want to restrict in here. And you can do that obviously if I was to add another file in here. So if we added in a document, we have page 1 PDF in that permission list. So if I just go back to this one, for example, here, the user Andy Naylor has full access. There's nobody else in this permission list. That will only mean that Andy Naylor can see that HR documents folder. Nobody else will be able to see it. If I wanted to give somebody access to see it but can't open it, then I guess you can't do that. But what you would be able to do is have somebody see it and be able to read the documents inside it. You would switch the access permission to read. So they would not, if you're not in this list, you would not see it. Because there isn't a permission denied option, by default it is permission denied if you're not granted access to that particular folder. And you can do the same exactly on files as well. So we can see here we have access permissions on files too. So those are the permissions, and like I say, with the company drive should be treated as your business's central repository for file storage. Hi Chris, you've got a question just about the tasks. Today's session on Tuesday is just going to be focusing on documents, the document management aspect of Bitrix. I'll see if I've got some time at the end of this session to answer any other questions in any areas of Bitrix. But generally Thursday's Bitrix24 live session is free for all. You can answer any questions on any module in Bitrix. These remote working sessions are just going to focus on specific areas of Bitrix for the time being. So if we go through some of the different options of what Bitrix has to offer in terms of documents, you can obviously delete. You have a full revision history of the document. So if you're got a Word document in here and somebody's edited it multiple times, you will be able to see a full list of all the history of those particular edits. And then if you want to, if you've got say 6 or 7, then we have a restore option in here too. Just got a question about the Thursday session. Yeah, absolutely. So Thursday sessions are generally marked for any area of Bitrix. So we usually spend the full hour on those sessions. These sessions on Tuesday are generally a bit shorter just because we focus on one specific area of Bitrix. So hopefully that helps. So just going back to here, we can connect it to the drive. So again, that's connecting it to my drive. If I wanted to do that, you can see now. And now if I go back to the My Drive option here, we have page 1 PDF. And now if I was to go back to my local area here, you can see that it's already synced to my local machine. So connecting it to your drive is connecting it to your local machine if you have the drive enabled. You don't have to always connect it to your local machine if you don't want to. On the desktop application, there is the ability to disconnect the document syncing option to your folder location on your Mac or Windows machine. But yeah, that's connecting it to drive. Will always drop it into my drive, and therefore it will have the ability to connect it up. We can copy documents, we can move documents, rename them, pretty much everything standard. There's a couple of cool features in here. We can get a public link, and there's a couple of cool options on the public link. So if you're wanting to share a document outside of Bitrix, then we have the public link here, and we can set a couple of different parameters on here. So if we wanted to set a lifetime link of only to last 10 minutes, anybody tries to access this document after 10 minutes, then it's not going to let them. The link will have expired by then. And you can set days, minutes and hours in there. And you can also set it to be password protected as well. So if somebody was to try and access this public link, then you can set a password in here to be able to have it restricted to only the people that you want to. So it's got a good couple of sharing options for these documents. When somebody accesses that particular link as well, then it's going to give them the ability to preview it, especially if it's a PDF or a Word document. It'll give them the ability to preview it online in a PDF viewer. Okay, so those are all the different options in here. We can click on details and view a little bit of information of who uploaded it, when it was uploaded it, and so on and so forth. So these are all the different options you have in here. And then one thing we haven't discussed as of yet is Bitrix's ability, if you don't want to, when we looked at them a little bit of time ago, we looked at the ability to edit the document using your Word editor. What you can do is you can actually work on documents, instead of working on them locally, you can work on them in the cloud. So working on them in the cloud will allow you then to be able to edit this particular document within Google Docs or within an Office 365 application. So if I was to click on here, click on this document, and you can see here, because I've switched it to editing in the cloud, instead of having the edit button at the bottom, just say edit, we now have the Google logo. If I was to click on edit now, it would then open up Google Docs. I could then edit the document in Google Docs in the cloud. You don't have to be edited. You don't have to have Word or anything like that. It will open up Microsoft Docs Word editor, and you can save it, and then it will resync back into Bitrix. So you'll be able to see that directly from within Google Docs. It's a fantastic way to work on documents, and also within that you can have that option on the cloud version of Bitrix. So whether you're using free, CRM Plus, Project Plus, Standard or Professional, that option is there. It's also available on the on-premise version of Bitrix 2. So there's not too much more to cover within the document side of Bitrix. Just got a question about that Google Docs one. For Google Docs editing, do you need to have a Google account? Yes, you do. When you click on editing in Google Docs, what it will do is it will ask you to either, if you're not logged into a Google account already, it will ask you to provide your Google username, if it's an email, and your Google password. If you're already logged into an account or multiple accounts, then it will just ask you to select which account that you want to use to be able to authenticate. So yes, you would need a Google account for that. The same with Office 365 as well. So when you're editing using Office 365, then you would need to have a Microsoft account to be able to use that facility to edit those documents. So when you're in Bitrix, if you were to ever delete documents, so if you click on the little checkbox here and then click on delete, we can move it to the recycle bin or delete irreversibly. Obviously, if you delete irreversibly, it's no way of getting it back. If you are to delete a document, it would just go back into the recycle bin, and then you can restore it. It's quite a good way, a fail-safe way. You're not losing documents, but I would just recommend that if you are deleting documents to go into the recycle bin, then please do be aware that if you don't empty that recycle bin, it can take up quite a lot of space. So all we would recommend doing is clicking on the drive cleanup option and clicking on start scan, and what that will do is it will scan to see how many documents are in there, how much space is being used by the recycle bin, which users, if you're an administrator, you can see which users are taking up a lot of space in their My Drive, and you can see which project work groups or normal work groups are using a lot of document space. Now obviously if you've got the professional, then you have essentially an unlimited amount of space, but if you are using the free cloud version, then you do only have 5 gigabytes. So it's quite good if you go to the Bitrix24 drive in the left hand menu, click on drive cleanup, and you'll be able to see then where that document space is being used up. Therefore it will prolong your free account because you're no longer using up all the drive space. So the last area we'll touch upon in a moment is just the workgroup drives. So essentially there is 3 main document storage areas in Bitrix. There's My Drive, there's Company Drive, and then there's a workgroup drive, which I'll go to in a moment. Just got a question, can you share detailed resources, video if possible, for CRM automation rules and triggers? As I don't, I haven't found enough information yet. Yeah, I think the best thing to do would be to go into the interface.com/remote working with Bitrix24. I can send out via our social media channels the link to this as well after, so please do check it out. There is a video on YouTube that is on our interface YouTube channel called CRM Remote Working, and that will give you access to some information about the CRM automation rule. So do check that out. So the last area that we'll cover in the documents, for those of you that have just joined or joined a short while ago and missed the start, this particular session is with regards to document management. It's our fourth video of the remote working series. It's just allowing you to check out a little bit in more detail with regards to the documents management aspect of Bitrix. May I know what the folder name, files from email, what is the folder? Is it attachment from everyone or is it just me? So if you've connected your email up from Bitrix, so if you've gone into the left-hand menu here, clicked on webmail and integrated your email with Bitrix, and yeah, essentially it's only your email, so it's all the attachments that come from emails from the account that you have integrated into Bitrix. So each user, once you've connected it, I don't see it in mine because I've not connected it on this particular demonstration site, but as soon as you do connect your email, then yeah, essentially that's what it is as well. And you'll also notice as well in the Bitrix24 drive, in your My Drive, you have uploaded files as well. So you have uploaded files. So if you've uploaded a file to, I don't know, a CRM item, so if you've uploaded a file to a company or you've uploaded a file to an activity stream post, then they are going to appear in your uploaded files as well. So it's sort of a central repository for being able to access those files that you've uploaded. We wish Bitrix24 can allow folder file names with special characters or symbols. Yeah, I'm not too sure on the restrictions with the symbols. I think you'd be allowed an ampersand, but I don't know the restrictions. So this files from email is in the company drive, so it's just my it's just your attachments in there. I'm just thinking about that. Probably would need to double check, because if it's in the company drive, potentially it could. I know we have a files for emails. I've had it in my drive, but if you've got it in the company drive, potentially it could be everybody's emails that have been connected. I will need to double check and come back to you if that's okay. I don't want to be giving you false information just in case it's not. Maybe as a precaution, if you've got a lot of users in your system, maybe just set the access permissions on that particular folder just for yourself, just in case that if you have 100 users all connected up their email accounts and all their files from the particular emails go into there, then obviously it's quite a security risk. Yeah, I'd need to double check. It's quite a good question, so I can come back to you maybe on Thursday's session with the answer to that particular question. For those of you that have asked about other areas of Bitrix, do please put your questions in to me. If you want to drop me an email, I'll put our contact details up at the end of this session. Please do ask them, and I can start the sessions off on Thursday with the ones that get asked during the week, because we do get quite a number of emails with those questions. It just allows us to start the session off with questions that have previously been asked. So just the final area of document management is if you're going to work groups and click into marketing. So all your work groups, if we've actually covered 2 sessions in here with regards to collaboration in work groups. So collaboration in work groups, we gave the example of this particular marketing work group, and you can collaborate with departments within an internal space inside Bitrix. And you can also create project groups as well. And project groups are essentially places where you can create a series of tasks to complete a project, and it has these drive locations to store your particular files as well. So in the marketing, in this particular work group here, we have a drive location. It is optional to check on and off. So when you create a work group space inside Bitrix, you have this option to disable and enable features. So we have drive here. And what we're going to do is you can disable it if you didn't want to store documents in a particular work group. It's completely up to you. So a drive in a work group or a project group is essentially a home for documents associated to whatever the work group or project is about. And it's a great way for spaces such as if you did create a marketing work group for your marketing team to be members of, then it's a great central place for that team to not only communicate, because you've got an activity stream, you can have chat, you can have video and voice calls for everybody inside this particular group, but you can also have a central repository for marketing assets. So if you've got flyers, logos, different branding materials, creating a work group for that particular department, creating a drive structure for those assets, everybody knows then who is working in the marketing department knows where those documents are stored. So it's a great way of having central access to those. We looked at earlier connecting it to the drive. That's pretty important if you want to connect those documents in this particular work group to your drive. But essentially everything else is the same. So we have assigning permissions. We haven't looked at business processes yet. I'll show you them as the last feature to cover today. But you've also got the ability to network drives. You can network drives on a Windows machine and also a Mac. So if you clicked on network drive here, it just gives you the instructions on how you want to do that. So you would do that rather than having the ability to sync it up via the desktop application. And then finally we have settings for working with documents. So one of the good tools that we haven't touched upon yet is the business processes on documents. To configure them, you need to activate them first. And once you've activated them, they will appear in this drop down now. So you can see here business processes. When you click on this, it's going to be empty. There are no business processes at the moment. But what we can do is create some standard ones. So Bitrix has some standard templates for business processes that we feel that you may find useful. And in here we have created standard business processes. And now what we have is a library of useful business processes that you can use. Now one of the easiest ones is the ability to approve documents. So in here we have auto run set to no. What we could do is if we were to click into first approval just as an example and have a look at this, you're going to see it's going to send an email. It's then got an approval block here. So the approval block is within in constructions, I believe. I think it might have moved. Let's have a look. No, it's in tasks, sorry. So you can see in tasks we have approve element. And all this is doing is once we upload the document into the drive, it's going to send an email. So it's using the email block in the right hand side. It's going to send it to the voters so we can define who the voters are. And when we upload the document, it will actually ask us to do that. So we can actually prefix those if we wanted. So let's just say the recipient in this case is going to be Andy Naylor here. Approve document, and this is going to be the text that the person who needs to approve it. Click on save. Let me just disable the parameters here because we don't want it to pop up. And then if it's approved, it'll send the email, set a status of approved, and then publish the document. If it gets refused, it's going to send an email to say it's been rejected, and then set a status of rejected. So this is a predefined one. If I was to click on save here now, and then instead of having it auto run as no, what we can do is execute during creation. So if a document gets uploaded to this particular workgroup drive, it will trigger this particular process off. We can also execute during modification. So if a document is edited, then it can trigger this particular process off. What I'll do is, in this case, I'll just set it to manual so I can run it on the document that exists already. So if I click on here, the 3 lines, we now, because we've activated the business processes, we've activated it here, and I can set first approval. So if I set that now, what that's done, if I just switch to the other view here, in the list view you can actually see that the approval process is running, and what that will do, it will send a workflow request to Andy Naylor, and then they will be able to approve or decline that document. So I just ran it manually just to show you where it was. You can obviously edit the document and be able to see that same approval process, and you can also do it on upload. So again, it's quite a useful tool to be using. We do have a webinar on business processes which looks at the processes involved in documents in a lot more detail. But this is just to show you what is there and what it is capable of. I think we've run through all the document areas inside Bitrix in all of the features. If you do have any other questions just about the document side of things, I can see if I can squeeze them in. We had a couple of people just ask for contact details. So if you want my email address, please feel free to send any questions that you may have to my email address. It is Andy, A-N-D-Y, at intraface.com. Alternatively, if you've got any questions about Bitrix itself, or you're interested in training, support, you've got some questions maybe about buying Bitrix, do drop an email to either myself or the email that you can see on screen at the moment, sales@intraface. Or alternatively, please give us a call at your local office here. So we've got an office in the US, the UK, and in Dubai as well. So hopefully you found that useful. As I've mentioned a couple of times, these Tuesday sessions are temporary at the moment, just while everybody is remote working. It's a remote working series that we're running. We've currently focused on, and these are all on the Bitrix24 YouTube channel, we've focused on communication, so looking at video, voice, and instant messaging. We've also focused on the collaboration in the work groups, so that allows us to see all the features of the work group, including the chat and things like that. We also have looked at Bitrix24 tasks and projects, and then finally today we're looking at document management. There are 2 more. The next one on Tuesday is probably the biggest one that we'll be doing, and that is all around the CRM. So the CRM is the 5th installment of the remote working series, and then we're going to touch upon in the 6th workflows, business processes, and the mobile app as well. So thank you very much for your time today. I will be live on Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Again, if you subscribe to the Bitrix24 YouTube channel, you'll get notified as soon as we go live. Thursday session is ask me any question on Bitrix24. I can show you live on screen, so whether it's the CRM, whether it's communications, anything that you want to know about Bitrix, I can show you live on screen. So thanks again, and bye for now.